Okay, final question. Hydrogen peroxide is a toxic chemical which is produced during metabolism. Catalase is an enzyme which breaks down hydrogen peroxide as shown below. Okay, so very basic. We've been doing hydrogen peroxide and catalase since S3. So we have our substrate, we have our enzyme, and these are obviously our products from this reaction. So it says experiments were carried out to investigate. So again, this is already telling us, just in case, sometimes there could be a conclusion question. Normally there is an experimental design question. Okay, so this is our aim, to investigate how changing the concentration of catalase affects the rate of hydrogen peroxide breakdown. So it says filter paper discs were soaked in catalase solutions of different concentration. Each disc was then added to a beaker of hydrogen peroxide solution as shown in figure 1. So get comfortable with figure 1. So hydrogen peroxide, there's our paper disc, and there's basically our beaker full of the hydrogen peroxide. Okay. So the disc sank to the bottom of the beaker before rising back up to the surface. The time taken for each disc to rise to the surface was used to measure the reaction rates. The results of investigation are shown in table 1. So here's table 1. So catalase concentration, so the catalase concentration is increasing, and then the average time for 10, it's interesting that they give you 10, we might come back to that later, 10 discs to rise in seconds. Okay, so what we can see is as the catalase concentration increases, the average time taken, that decreases, doesn't it? So 9.8, 6.9, 5.3, and again this is interesting. So it decreases, and then there's no change between 1% and 2% catalase. Okay, so again, get comfortable. Sometimes when there's large blocks of text here, it's absolutely okay, and sometimes important that you do, after each individual question, you go back and have a quick read over it. Sometimes that's a lot of information for people to take in at the one time. Okay, all right, so question A, explain, so again, looking at our data and giving a reason, explain why the filter paper discs rose to the surface of the hydrogen peroxide solution. Now, we would presume because you've done this experiment in class and lessons before that you will remember, okay? But the whole point, it says here, filter paper discs were soaked in catalase solutions. So we know that when we put catalase into hydrogen peroxide, so this is catalase, okay? We know when catalase is put into hydrogen peroxide, there's products produced, and oxygen is a gas. Okay, so my correct answer is that oxygen is produced. And because bubbles of oxygen is produced, that therefore helps the filter paper rise to the surface. That's us seeing that reaction occur. And then variables for question B, name 3 variables which should be controlled during this investigation. So we've done this previously. The areas that we can discuss are volume, concentration, temperature, and we could have size of something, surface area, something like that. Okay, again, these are the wee kind of specific variables depending on what the experiment is. So we're looking at all of our equipment and all of our solutions that we're using. Okay, so straight away when we look at this, okay, there is no specific data given, there's no specific measurements given. So straight away we could say, so we could tick off volume. So that would be volume of hydrogen peroxide used. Okay, we could tick off concentration. Okay, so again, we can't say concentration of catalase because that's already mentioned, but we can say concentration of hydrogen peroxide. Okay, we can always say temperature, unless obviously temperature is being tested and that's a stated variable already. So temperature, and again we have to have of, it's not enough just to say temperature, so I would have temperature of solution, or you could say something in relation to solutions within the beaker. Okay, or what you could do is you could say size or surface area of discs. Okay, so obviously the larger the disc, then there might be more catalase within that. Okay, so variable question, done. So see, what feature of this investigation makes the results more reliable? Okay, this emboldened bit here says, don't just give me the easy old answer of repeat and take an average. They're giving you the hint that they're wanting more information about that. Okay, but absolutely, when you see reliable, you want to talk about something being repeated. Okay, and this is where we come back to this 10 discs. This is the important bit. Okay, and the whole thing is that every concentration, there was 10 discs used. Okay, so your answer would be 10 discs were used at each concentration. So remember what's happening at this investigation. How are we making it reliable? Okay, or what you can say is the experiment was repeated. You're shown the repetition by this information here, okay, in the previous point, at each concentration. Personally, I think this is the better answer, because it's shown your understanding of the data that you're given. Remember, they'll give you information for specific reasons. Okay. All right, and final question. So it says, part 2, state 2 conclusions which have been drawn from these results. Okay, so we've already looked at information previously when we're trying to just get to grips with the question. Okay, so we know that, as we can see here, so catalase concentration is increasing. Then what's happening is the rate of reactions basically increases, isn't it? So the rate of the hydrogen peroxide being broken down is increasing. Okay, but then we notice this bit here is quite interesting. Okay, so although the average time is, when we say increasing as in speed as in it's getting faster, okay, as you can see the data is you would say is the data is decreasing, but that's showing you how quick the increase of the reaction is occurring. At concentrations 1 and 2, it remains the exact same. Okay, so again, 2 points. I'm going to say as catalase concentration increases, reaction rate of, I'm just going to abbreviate this, hydrogen peroxide breakdown increases. Okay, and then again for another conclusion for 2 marks, okay, we've also stated that at higher concentrations, so like our 1 and our 2, okay, at higher concentrations, you could even be specific and say above 1%, the reaction rate levels off. Okay, well done. Well done if you can read my writing as well.